All right, so welcome to Conquering the Blood Sugar Battle. Okay, so before I start with anything, raise your hand if you're a guest. If you're a guest in the house, guests. Okay, raise it up high like you're proud of it. Like raise. So round of applause for the guests. Excellent, good. Thank you guys for being here. Let me say this: I am over the top. I'm a very passionate person. You're going to see that. So let me raise your hand if you know I'm passionate. Yes, you're surrounded by people who know. Just a small bit, just a tid. But I can tell you, I'm really, really passionate about tonight. Tonight, you are going to learn some things that are opposite of what you've been taught. Did you get that? Opposite of what you've been taught. The problem with that is, if millions of people believe this way, then it seems like the way that a lot of people believe would be right. But I can tell you without a scientific doubt at all, with all fact and proof, what I'm going to tell you is backed by science over and medical doctors over and over again. The ones that don't know this just don't know this what? Yet. And we always say, if you want to learn the things that everybody's going to be surprised about 10 years from now, make sure you're at Power Workshops. Raise your hand if you've heard something in the last 5 to 10 years as being a patient that took you by surprise, and then it came out recently that it was the hottest new thing. Yeah, so the hands up everywhere. Got it. So that's what we're talking about today. So conquering the blood sugar battle. First of all, what is this all about? It's a sugar-fueled epidemic. Basically, all this is diabetes. Now again, we're going to talk about diabetes today, but also the same thing that reverses diabetes, and everybody say the word reverse. Reverse. The same thing that reverses diabetes reverses fatigue. It reverses mental decline. It reverses Alzheimer's. It reverses weight loss resistance. It reverses allergies. It reverses arthritis. It reverses digestive disorders. Raise your hand if there's something I said right now that you'd like help with. Okay, so raise your right hand if you have a right hand. Got it. Now you're in the right place, okay? You know, I pastored a church for a while. This is all, we're still here, okay? So, all right. So this is what we're talking about. But let me start with a history lesson. You guys know that I'm history buff. How bad is diabetes? Is it bad? Is it getting worse? Okay, well there was a test, a study, if you will, accidentally poised on a human population, accidentally over the last 60, 70 years, and it was in the Marshall Islands, okay? I don't necessarily know where that is. It's over here somewhere, okay? Marshall Islands is a chain of islands, and it was remote, so nobody ever got there, or not very many people did. And what it meant is the people there were very native, and they lived off the land of the food they could grow or the livestock they could raise. Make sense? So all they ate was pretty natural stuff, yes or no? Yes. Guess how much diabetes they had there in the Marshall Islands? Almost completely zero, including actually a lot of other diseases too. But they had missionaries come about 60 years ago. Up until that time, doing great. Missionaries came and they actually brought in trade with them, okay? And they had sugar and they had all these other things. Well, after about up until the 2000s, they went from having no imported food to now having 80 to 90% of the food consumed in the Marshall Islands being brought in, right? Now, you think that was for better or for worse? What do you think happened to the amount of carbohydrates they were eating? Through the roof. It wasn't natural food anymore. It was all processed and stuff that never went bad. Spam, ramen noodles, donuts, Coca-Cola, stuff like this. Spam is bad, yes. Spam is bad. Sorry about that for the spam lovers, even if you barbecue it. I'm just saying, people do that. But watch this. So watch. The Marshall Islands actually became one of the worst epidemic hotspots for this blood sugar issue in the entire world. Let me tell you how bad it got. The Marshall Islands have gotten so bad because of diet. That's the only thing that switched, guys. You can see that. Literally, that now 75% of women are diabetic. Of all women. 50% of men are diabetic. And watch this. Even the youngest kids, 30% of all children are diabetic. Medications. And watch this. It's so pandemically, aggressively bad that if there are any surgeries done, and there's hospitals throughout the Marshall Islands, if there's any surgeries done throughout the Marshall Islands, half of all surgeries are for amputations for diabetes. Did you get that?
Yes.
Now here's the crazy part. There was another mission that went through there. They came back and they said, listen, this is the worst place in the world for this. So we're going to bring in diabetes clinics. And it wasn't just to give a bunch of insulin like they would here, or metformin, or Avandia, or something like this. They went in and they did. If you were going to be part of this, you got to be part of it, but you had to be very strict. You had to eat everything that they cooked at the diabetes center. You had every day. You had to, which is basically advanced plan. You guys that are patients in the office, high fat, low carb, medium protein. And then watch this, they did advanced plan, they did burst training every single day, and they had education every day. So imagine coming to workshops like this every single day. Guess what happened in 1 week? 1 week, 100% of participants dropped their fasting blood sugar 50 to 100 points. Now fasting blood sugar should be under 100. So if you're dropping it 100 points, that's a lot. Would you agree? Now that's statistically significant. Within 2 weeks, triglycerides fell 40 points. Would that be cool? How about this? Weight loss was about 1 to 3 pounds a week. Disappearance of pain in legs, arms, and joints. Raise your hand if you'd like to have less pain. I have people come to my office and say, my back still hurts, and guess what I want to say? How are you eating? Let's not talk about your adjustment yet. Let's just talk about how you're eating at home. And this weekend was Haagen-Dazs and donuts with Dad and whatever else. A bunch of rice and right. So, but watch this: less frequent trips to the bathroom, more energy, and increased mental capacity when tested. This is why people aren't walking around carbohydrate zombies. Like they lose cognition, and so do you. Do you think that was pretty cool? Right now, the issue that I have with it is, if that is so scientifically known, we know that around the world, every doctor knows that, it's been taught in medical schools, that's great, that's wonderful. What you are still being taught is that diabetes is not reversible. And diabetes is not an insulin problem. Diabetes, 90% of it, is not an insulin problem, it's a receptor problem. It's a hormone problem. It's a cellular problem. And you can't fix it with more insulin. Did you get that? Let me walk through this a little bit further, okay? How bad has it gotten? Let me just talk about body weight in general. This one back from 1990, and the white one is no data. The light-colored blue is obesity under 10%, and darker blue is between 10 and 14%. Now watch this. Just watch as the years go by. This is 93. This is 94. Had to add another category. This is 95. 98. Add another category. Over 20%. 2000, 2001, had to add another one. Tennessee is about to push us into the ocean. They're so heavy. And then this one, 2002, 2003. What are you seeing here? What's the trend? Obesity rates are through the roof. Guess what? This is exactly what you saw to the T, exactly in the Marshall Islands. Exactly. If this was a breed of animal, and we saw that water buffaloes were doubling and tripling their weight and they're becoming diseased, that half of all children were diabetic in this species, what would you think about the species? Do you think they'd be around a lot longer? No. You hear my point? This is very, very classic. And you see it again, that's 2005. 2006, it's not getting better. 2007, you only saw one blue left. Did you see it? All right, so, but what do you see? It's obesity trends and diabetes trends are tracking what? Really close together. Do you see that? It's the same thing. It's just dysfunction in the body, and it's how you are feeding disease. Let me be clear about this. This is not an adult onset problem anymore, okay? Just so you know, in the last 2 decades, childhood type 2, not type 1, childhood type 2 onset has gone up 1,000%. 15 years ago, new cases of diabetes diagnosed were only 3% of those were children. New cases of diabetes being diagnosed, only 3% of those were children. Right now, 50% of new cases of diabetes being diagnosed are children. 50%. Did you hear what I said? Now watch. How bad is it? It's worse than you think. Okay? Actually, guess how many people are diagnosed every single day, new cases of diabetes in the United States? Any ideas? 500? 1,000? It'd be horrible. Do you know? She remembers she was here this morning. 4,660 people every single day are diagnosed with diabetes. Okay? It's worse than you think. Watch this. There are more people with diabetes and prediabetes diagnosed right now than live on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Watch this, it's even worse. $1 out of $3 spent on health care through Medicare right now is spent not on cancer, not on heart disease, not on pneumonia, not asthma, not infection rates. One thing, diabetes. And watch this, if you're diagnosed with diabetes, the cost of your health care just statistically right now went up 2.3 times what everybody else's is, just because you got that diagnosis. I'm not just talking about your blood sugar and your finger pricks and all the stuff you got to have, your teeth, your digestion, your immunity, your skin, your eyes, all your health care just went through the roof, 2.3 times more than anybody else's, because diabetes is not just a diabetes of insulin or insulin resistance. Diabetes is a disease of what? Your whole body. Got it? Now the good news is it's reversible, but it impacts everything. Would you agree? Everything. And what you get is, just like Marshall Islands, you feed, instead of health, leanness, wholeness, strength, longevity, you feed this. The exact same person doing something different will create this. And this has become the norm, yes or no? Yes. It's the norm. It is the norm, okay? And there's a bunch of the stats. Again, all these things that you see. I mean, it's just crazy, the stats. If you got your phones, you might want to take a picture of that, post that up. Some of you guys actually are taking notes in other places. That is an important one to remember, because this is what most people don't know. When we say diabetes is getting worse, they go, yeah, it's getting worse. But, we got a lot of doctors doing some great stuff. No, 90, and this is just Dr. David's number, but I would suggest 90% of doctors that are treating you and your families right now do not know what I'm about to tell you tonight. And if they have heard it, they're going by the guidelines that are standardized by the American Diabetes Association, which I'll also talk about tonight. But I'm going to give you action steps. Raise your hand if you'd like action steps tonight to reverse the blood sugar issue. Whether you have diabetes, don't have diabetes, or never want diabetes. Okay? This is how we get there. Okay. Now let me say this. This is nearly 100% preventable. And if it's 100% preventable, then guess what? What it means is this is not a medical problem. This is a social problem. And a social problem does not get fixed in a doctor's office. It does not get fixed at a pharmaceutical industry. It gets fixed through society. And guess how we do that? We do that by changing how we live. Does everybody really clearly understand that? What it means is we change how we celebrate, right? If I say celebration here, people are like, yes. And it means that we get together and eat what? Cake or crappy food or donuts or chips or whatever else. And it's so funny. I meet with patients all the time, and I hear stuff like, hey, yeah, like if you spilled a bunch of chips on the floor or Coke or something and you have a dog, you'd be like, oh, hurry, baby, don't let the dog have that. That's bad for the dog, right? That's for you and your friends. That's for you and your friends. And we laugh about it. We laugh about it, but guess what? When you know what I know, it's killing a child. That's what that is. And when you know the chemical pathways and things, that's just killing a child. People will say, something like, you never have a donut, not ever have a donut. Yeah, I freak out because poison and donuts are synonymous to me. It's the same thing. Like by the way, my son, who may be in the office still, my son graduated high school on Friday. Yeah, I got a pay raise because he just got out of a Christian school. It was awesome. But he had a bunch of friends over. Well, his friends don't live like we live. So I walk in the next morning, and it's me and my 7-year-old, my one that keeps me young, and we're tooling around early because she wants to get up early all the time. And there are two big, tall, zero-calorie monsters on Dr. David's counter in his kitchen, which means I've just been invaded, and there's a license to carry for a reason. No, I'm just kidding. But I walk in, and there's on my counter. Well, what the guys that are there, and I love all the guys my son hangs around. We're slowly changing them. But I love them all. But they didn't know that my daughter likes to run around. We have those Zevias, the stevia sweetened colas. We have those sometimes for a celebration. And they'll be sitting there. There's nothing at the end. You can't ever get everything out of a can, right? But the next day, if there's one sitting out, she'll go grab it and go like this. Well, I turned around to cook some breakfast, and she grabbed that monster and goes and got it in her mouth. And I said, baby, stop. I said, rinse your mouth out real quick, rinse your mouth out. And like you may think that was funny for me to say that, but it's poison. It's exactly, I had a child here, was a friend of somebody. They did 2 big monsters, and they ended up having a seizure and a heart, like some kind of heart thing, right? This stuff is poison. It masquerades itself as some kind of nutrition. It's not. And so this is a social disease. We have to treat this socially, which means we have to celebrate differently. That means our kids going to grade school can't have cupcakes every day for birthday parties. Any moms amen to me on that one? Any teachers? I mean, every time I turn around, like I had a family here who's had their kid adjusted since birth, and it was their 1-year birthday, and it was like 2 weeks after that, they got their first fever. Never had a fever their whole life. And I was like, hey, so what's different? I mean, I've been adjusting them. And it's okay to have a fever. It's natural to have a fever occasionally. And I said, so what's different? And she goes, well, we had birthday. And I go, oh, okay. Guess what they did for birthday? And they let the little 1-year-old do what? Just like this, first bit of sugar, drops their immune system, crashes it. They succumb to a virus, bacteria they've been around all this time anyway, and now they have a fever. This is how you ruin a child. This is how you ruin health. This is how you develop diabetes from an early age. And yet, guess what? I might be the bad guy, and I might be the parent that you hate in the class because I'm not letting you have cupcakes with kids all the time. Like we had a last year, first grade, my daughter was at a school where they did McDonald's days, like constantly, and I was like, no, should we bring a sack lunch? Like they had pizza days, they had Dr. Pepper days, they had cupcake days. Every time I turned around, there was a party with cookies or cookie cakes, and I was like, no wonder that the teacher had issues with health, and I won't go completely into that. Hopefully she watches this. But the problem with it is, guess what? She's always going to have that unless she does something different, right? Because it's not a genetic thing, it's not a bad luck thing, it's a social thing. Does that make sense? All right, so moving forward. There's 3 types of diabetes. Did you guys know there's 3 types of diabetes? You knew about type 1. Used to be, type 1 was what? Juvenile, right? Type 2 is what? Adult onset, which now they don't call adult onset. What do they call it? They just call it type 2 because now 50% of children being diagnosed with type 2. That's 50% of the new cases. And so, but what's type 3? A guy named Thomas Willis 300 years ago actually poised this out and actually started finding the link. It's actually showing that when you have, and I'll go through it here in a minute, but when you have diabetes, or not even diabetes, when you have insulin spikes and blood sugar irregularities, that you actually cause mental decline. And then it was in 1935, it was a female doctor, I forget her name, she actually coined it psychogenic diabetes. And what they've done now is if you have, listen, you do not have to have a diagnosis of diabetes. Raise your hand if you ever get tired after you eat. Come on, be honest, right? So half the room. Guess what? This is a sign of what we're talking about. What it means is you're having insulin spikes, okay? You're having insulin spikes, you're having hypoglycemic events, and what that does is it builds beta amyloid proteins in the brain, causes the brain, which also, so you just notice this is the most recent research, your brain makes insulin. Did you know that? Your brain makes it. You thought the pancreas was the only thing that made insulin. No, your brain makes insulin too, and it's very sensitive to it. And so when you actually start having insulin resistance to the brain, you start making fibers that tangle in the brain, which is neurofibril tangles is what diagnosis? Starts with an A, bad one. Alzheimer's, which means if you actually have an increased sensitivity and maintain sensitivity to insulin, you actually aren't the person developing, guess what? Alzheimer's. But it's type 3 is psychogenic diabetes. That's what it is, okay? But let's go through this. Type 2, it is not a blood sugar problem. It's not a problem with blood sugar, okay? It's an insulin signaling problem. The pancreas makes these triangles insulin, okay? This is the receptor in your cell. That triangle clicks onto that receptor and opens up a gated channel on the cell membrane and allows glucose to come into the cell. That's how you get glucose into your cells. Got it? So your blood sugar goes down when you get sugar into your cells, right? Now, in type 1 diabetes, your pancreas has been attacked through autoimmunity and you're not making enough insulin, so it's not a receptor problem as much as it is getting glucose into the cell because you don't have enough insulin. Does it make sense? That's why they call type 1 oftentimes insulin dependent, juvenile or diabetes. Make sense? Type 2 diabetes is not the lack of insulin. It's the fact that the receptor is burning out, and it doesn't matter how much insulin you have, you can't get the receptors to open the gates to let glucose in. But what is the number one solution people get from their medical doctors who are having more and more issues with blood sugar irregularity? What's the solution? More and more what? Insulin. But I could put insulin in you non-stop continually, which is why, what do you see? People that go on insulin, guess what they need more and more of and more and more of and more and more of? Insulin. And eventually, guess what? You can't get enough into them, so they put what on their hip? A pump or a patch or whatever else. Looks like a little beeper. It's got a little clear tube wire going. Goes up underneath their shirt. Guess what? It goes right into their belly and injects insulin into them non-stop. Right? Is that where we've come? Do you know why that doesn't work? Do you know why you keep needing more insulin? Because the problem is not insulin. The problem is the receptor. Who wants to fix the receptor? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay? But let's talk about the diagnosis. So I can educate you a little bit so you know what your doctor's talking about. This is what your lab values look like. Normal is fasting glucose under 100. Pre-diabetic, who's heard that? That's a coin that just came up in the last 20 years. There was no such thing. Now, because if you're pre-diabetic, they want to start your meds when? Before you're diabetic. Yeah, sold 10 million more pills a year like that. But it's 100 to 125, diabetics 125 plus. Now, that's just glucose. Does it make sense? Just glucose. Insulin, leptin are two other things that we should look at, but most doctors, now some do, but most doctors don't look at, is your insulin, fasting insulin levels. And here's the thing, you can find diabetes at minimum 2 decades before a diagnosis will come if you look for spiking insulin levels. So if you do a fasting, like fasting glucose, don't eat and then you go to your blood test, if you do that and your insulin levels are spiking, guess what? It will show you years before your blood sugar ever gets to something like this. That's the whole I'm tired after eating or a lot of things like this. Everybody with me? Now, A1C, you always hear about this, right? Theoretically, it's how much sugar accumulates on the red blood cells. And the reason I want you to know about this, the reason it's important is because having a higher and higher A1C means that you've got more and more sugar on the red blood cell. The more sugar that's on the red blood cell, the less oxygen you can carry in your blood. Which is why, guess what? The peripheral tissue doesn't get blood supply, and this is why we have things chopped off. Got it? But watch, it doesn't just mean that. It means that your red blood cells have a shorter lifespan. It also means that if you're replacing red blood cells all the time, where does that come from? Bone marrow, right? If you're replacing red blood cells all the time, what is a disease that is a neoplasm that affects bone marrow and blood cells? It's a type of cancer. What do you call it? Leukemia. So if you are actually having to make more and more and more and more red blood cells, right, then guess what it increases your likelihood of? Leukemia. But not just leukemia. Do you realize that diabetes increases likelihood of just about every type of cancer? And it's because sugar feeds cancer, doesn't it? Right? Okay. Again, it's just a fountain of youth. Who would like to be this and who would like to be this? Right? Everybody wants to be this. This is, and listen, I don't say this to try and smoke the situation or overdo it or over-exhaust this thing, but this literally is your fountain of youth. And can I just tell you, I have a perfect example. You guys have heard me talk about her before, but my own mother. My own mother is a fountain of youth. She is, I can tell you this, she told me I could, she's 74. A week ago, the Sunday before Mother's Day, she was 74. She is a marathoner. She is a CrossFitter. Last time we worked out together, she was like, I think I could do a pull-up. She's never done a pull-up. She started just busting out pull-ups like this. Just like this. I'm like, I couldn't do that until about a year ago. My mom's just killing it. And so, again, this is the fountain. Guess how my mom looks? My mom looks awesome. My mom... She goes, so she came in one time, and it's a 4.5 hour drive, and I turn the hot tub on for them when they get here so they can just kind of soak after that long drive. They love it. And she goes, I forgot my bathing suit. And I go, well, I just wear one of Kimberly's or one of Zoe's or something. And she goes, well, I haven't worn a two-piece in forever, David. I just couldn't do that. Like this. And she came downstairs, and her two-piece was like, doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I'm like, this is how we do it. Yeah, Mom. Yeah. So this is the fountain of youth. This is the fountain of youth. But watch this. What if you're diagnosed? Now what? So what is going to happen? We go to the doctor, okay? Insulin therapy. So doses typically increase over time. And here's the thing. Most people tell you if you don't control this thing, and they're true, you don't control this will get you. But does taking insulin necessarily mean that it's under control? No. Do you know that actually right now, British Medical Journal says if you take insulin for diabetes, watch this, 19% increase in all-cause death and 43% increase in cardiovascular mortality, so stroke or heart attack. And that's what they tell you. That's why they tell you to have to control it. What's it mean? It means that taking it does not decrease your disease rates if you think you're protecting yourself. The only way to protect yourself is to kill this. Did you get it? How many times do you think I go in a room with a patient, you're like, well, I'm trying to eat better, and, I'm like, you know what? If you go to battle, Dr. Russ is a great example. He is a perfect soldier. I love working out with Dr. Russ. He makes me feel slow sometimes, but I love working out with him. He was in the Navy. He was a submariner. You got to be a little different to be a submariner. He is awesome. But when you're a soldier, they don't teach you to like patty cake around, do they? Like if you're in a battle and you've got a gun, they don't teach you, just shoot up in the air like shock and awe, just scare them a little bit, or just, like just flesh wound them a little bit. If this is a battle, honestly, if we're battling diabetes or cancer or whatever else it is, we're not going to like patty cake around. You need to get serious. You need to kill this. Finally, come on, you guys, do something different with your life. Finally get serious about your lifestyle. Finally kill this thing. Finally get victory over it. If it was a battle, you wouldn't want to slightly win. You would want to crush them so bad that if anybody ever heard about this battle, they'd be so scared they'd never even come up against you. Can I get an amen? Amen. And so, but listen, when you want to go, well, I'll try it. I'll put a little toe in here. I'll try and do a little better. You know what it makes? It's like lukewarm. What's the Bible say about lukewarm? Spit it out of your mouth. It makes me sick. You know what? Don't do anything and have the balls to tell me that you're not going to do anything, or do everything and have the whole world want to do an interview of you. Does that make sense? Yes. So, I may have actually just had everybody turn off the YouTube video. So, all right. So other treatments, Avandia, okay, on the market at $19.99, and watch, $19.99, and get this, in less than a decade, okay? Come back and they say that if you take Avandia, 43% increase of heart attack, 64% higher increased risk of cardiovascular death, basically, and then watch this. 80,000 plus people had strokes as a result of this drug. And they didn't even take it off the market. You still see commercials for Avandia, do you not? Because it decreases your blood, and you might lose weight too. It's just a natural side effect. Yeah, but so is 80,000 strokes. And what's interesting is GlaxoSmithKline didn't allow this to come onto the market until they admitted, and they waited until the lawsuit was final, and they had to, until they admitted that their blockbuster pharmaceutical drug it was an antidepressant, until they admitted that it actually caused diabetes, and they waited to admit it until they had what? Avandia to come out and treat the diabetes that they created from the antidepressant. Look it up. It's history. Okay? And it took 10 years to restrict the use, and it's still not restricted because I bet anybody here, at least half of you guys know somebody taking Avandia, right? Which they just need to like to do something else. But there's other drugs. I could go through what each of these does. Most of them do one of two things. They either increase your insulin output or they decrease your blood sugar. And either way, guess what they still do? They literally continue to create more and more havoc and disease and stroke in your body because they never fix what? The problem. They never fix the problem. And it's big business, is it not? Oh, yeah. Everywhere you go, look at this, all diabetic supplies, diabetic foods. And this is just something that's actually like one of these like diabetic supplements. What do you see on there? Do you see anything that you actually can recognize? Anything that's, water, that's good. White water. I heard ascorbic acid might be in orange juice, so maybe that you could say that. Right? Vitamin D3, so it's healthy. So we're good. We're good now. But watch, can you see why people that abide by the rules and the guidelines will always be diabetic and still be more diabetic? Right? Now, it's a snowball effect, and even the American Diabetes Association says that diabetes is a what? Progressive disease that will continue getting worse and require more what? More medication. Do you believe that? No. If you believe it, I want to crush it, I want to kill it, and I want you to have something, when you walk out that front door, something broke on the inside of you, and you never feel that way again. And I want every single person watching this, and every person that you send this to, and every person that you know at church, and everybody that you work with that may have diabetes, or somebody they know that has diabetes, know this so they can reverse it too. Got it? All right, so let's get to it. What's the conventional nutritional recommendations for a diabetic? This is from the American Diabetes Association. They said that you should have 40 to 65 grams of carbohydrates with each meal, and if you have snacks, go ahead and have some more. Guess what that means? Your diabetes is staying forever, and it's getting what? Worse. And they say, don't do fat, low fat, low fat, low fat, low fat, right? Which usually means more sugar, more sugar, more sugar, more sugar, right? No recommendation ever says reverse diabetes, and this is what Sarah Halberg says. She's got a great YouTube video if you look it up. It's a TED Talk. Diabetes is a state of carbohydrate toxicity. Did you get that? Like if you were living in a house with a bunch of mold and you couldn't breathe and you start having respiratory distress, I would say this is mold toxicity. If you're having issues with blood sugar, guess what I say it is? It's carbohydrate toxicity. You're killing yourself through carbohydrates. There's only 3 macronutrients. What are the carbohydrates? Protein and fat. Carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And we're going to show you exactly what to do with each of those. But the risk factors, are there risk factors? Yes, but everyone wants to talk about genetics or race or ethnic backgrounds. Do you know why it has anything to do with anything? Because your mama taught you how to eat. And her mama taught her how to eat. And eating biscuits and gravy and frosted flakes and mini wheats and oatmeal because they're steel cut, because now they've got to be healthy. All of that literally has created, and watch this, 60, 70 years ago, do you think the oats that you were eating are the same as the oats today? No, they're not. And the bread that you were eating wasn't the same either. And so just because your great-grandparents got away with it and they lived till they were 93 and you go, well, I could probably do it, guess what the results are going to be? Disastrous. But your medical doctor is going to get paid. Okay, so here's a great one. Your body does not have to have glucose from your diet. Or is it true or myth? Here's the thing. Your body does not have to have glucose from your diet. Actually, the fact is you do not have to have carbohydrates in your diet. Now, that means you're not eating vegetables, and I want you to, okay, just so we're clear. But you don't. Do you realize you go through a process called gluconeogenesis, and you can make all the carbohydrates you need through protein that you eat? In fact, some of the reasons some of you guys haven't lost weight is because when we got you on a lower carbohydrate diet, you started fiending for carbs so bad that you ate a lot of protein, because if you eat more than about a box of cards worth of protein at each meal, it turns right into sugar. And so you get your sugar fix by eating a second hamburger or a bunch of bacon or whatever, and it turns to sugar. So guess what? Even though you're fiending for sugar, you get your fix on protein. Did you get that? You do not have to have carbs in your diet to survive and thrive and live, right? But you need to know that, because guess what? As soon as I start low-carbing you and you start fiending like a cocaine addict, you're going to be like, nope, I can't do this. And I guarantee you can. If not, come live at my house. You can work out with me, eat what I eat, sleep when I sleep, and one or two things are going to happen. You will die or you'll be completely healed. So, but again, I wanted to put this out there. Sarah Hallberg, if you're taking notes, go find her. She's got a really quick video. I think it's like 18 minutes, something like this, 11 minutes, something like that, on YouTube. Really good, really good stuff. She's a medical doctor, runs a clinic, deals with a lot of obese people and diabetes. It's great. Reversal of type 2 diabetes. This is awesome. Type 2 diabetes can, say it, can be reversed through diet changes, and the study showed that this happened quickly. 1 to what? 1 to 8 weeks. 1 to 8 weeks. 1 to 8. I didn't say 8 months. I didn't say 8 years. I said 1 to 8 weeks. And Roy Taylor, awesome quote, a dramatic diet change in diabetes reversed most features of diabetes. What? That's right, diabetes reversed in 1 week. That's more powerful than any drug known to modern science. The problem with it is, don't tell me you want to get rid of your diabetes or your blood sugar irregularities, your insulin spikes. Don't tell me you want to get rid of that and then go, well, I'm trying to eat better. Somebody had a birthday party. It was a Super Bowl. Super Bowl. Right? Guess what? If you're ready to go do this, just go do it. Stop talking about it. Stop trying to put your feet in the deep or the shallow end and just go over and jump in the deep end. I promise, it feels good. You know what tastes better than anything you could have a cheat meal on? You know what tastes better? Being 74 with your son and doing pull-ups. You know what? Being 74 and getting first place every single time you will get in a race because you kick everybody's tail, and a lot of them that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s. That tastes better than anything you could eat. Do you agree with that? Getting in a two-piece swimsuit when you're 74 and your 40-something-year-old son going, doing pretty good, Mom. right? Do you think that tastes better than your oatmeal in the morning? Do you think it tastes better than popcorn continually? Do you think it tastes better than your frosted mini wheats or your Snickers or your little hard candies that are in your purse, ladies? I look when I'm adjusting you. But watch this. I was really proud of this. We have over 400 clinics in this and 4 other countries, and this is a peer-reviewed published journal article, and it has Maximized Living in the article right there, Maximized Living Protocol, and it talks about 20-year history, type 2 diabetic, 61-year-olds, in 8 weeks, reversed it completely, and not just because we thought it did or he felt better or his x-ray looked better, because he went back to his medical doctor and he has zero evidence of diabetes in his body whatsoever. Hey, crazy one. And I put this in there, but watch, there's another one. I heard today a testimony. I think Sarah Hallberg was talking about it. 20-year diabetic, pumped 350 units of insulin a day. Think that's a lot? That's a lot. Completely changed their diet. They're basically doing the advanced plan, so low carb, high fat, medium protein, burst training every day, lots of education, and literally in this short amount of time is completely off of all of her drugs, all of her insulin, pump is out, tube is out of her, which is big, reverse her diabetes completely, and has lost crazy amounts of weight. This is reversible. This is not just, it's not an outlier. It's not one person and you go, well, that could be for them because they're that weird person over there. Nobody else could do that. Everybody can do this, unless it's some kind of weird, there's one in a cajillion that can't do this. And I guarantee you, even if you did this and you didn't get completely off of everything, would you be better off? Oh, come on. Exactly, right? So, and I love this too. I mean, we are diabetes slayers in Maximized Living. Slayers. I mean, I joked with a doctor friend of mine down in San Antonio. I was like, we're going to rename your clinic Diabetes Reversal Clinic for about 6 months, and this one too, until everybody in our whole communities are diabetes free. It's a diabetes clear zone. It doesn't even exist here. And then when that's done, we'll go, because I've never seen a kid with asthma still have asthma, we'll rename it Herb Family Asthma Clinic, and then we'll just wipe that out, and then we'll pick another one right after that, right? So, here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. As you keep stuffing sugar, and by the way, a lot of you guys, well, I don't eat sugar. I don't eat candy. I don't eat hard stuff. I don't eat ice cream. No, yeah, you do. You eat Subway. Yeah, you do. You eat bread. You eat toast in the morning. Yeah, you're getting sugar. Trust me. It's processed, and you go, well, no, it's whole grain. No, you're still getting sugar. It turns to sugar in 4 seconds in your mouth through the amylase. You get so much sugar that it burns out the insulin receptors, and it's the type 2 problem. Got it? But you don't have to know it, because you get your fasting blood sugar every year with your doctor, and he goes, no, you're fine. But guess what? Your insulin is still spiking, and you're getting other issues with it. Now, what is the solution? I'm going to go through these tonight. You guys with me? Can I do this? Yes. Let's just talk about them first. All forms of diabetes are affected by lifestyle and daily choices. That is Max Mind number 1. If you don't believe that, then you're not going to change your diet, because why would I? It's just deprivation. I don't want to put any person in here on a diet. Did you get that? 3/4 of the word diet is die. And that's about how all of you feel like when I start, quote, taking things from you. But yes. But listen, I had more sweets. I had cake, brownies, chocolate chip, almond bars. I had muffins. I had 2 or 3 muffins a day for the last 4 or 5 days. And some of them were banana walnut. One of them was chocolate chip and whatever. And listen, it was good, and it had no flour. It was all like almond flour, and it was awesome. Out of the oven, butter soaked in through it. Can I get an amen? Amen. Right? And guess what? Yes, you have the recipes, and I'll make sure you get it. But the point is, listen, I'm not missing out. Do you think I feel like I'm missing out? No. I'm not missing out, and you don't have to miss out either. But you just have to change your mindset. Second one, get adjusted. We're going to talk about the nervous system tonight. Eat a healthy diet, the advanced plan. What is that? We'll talk about that briefly, but it's higher fats. Exercise, and I'm not talking about go get on a treadmill, read a book for an hour. I'm talking about high intensity, where you have to stop and go. That's the kind of workout, right? Avoid and eliminate tobacco and alcohol and other toxicities, but those are big ones for diabetes. Now, let's just start with diabetes nutrition. It's very simple. Whole foods, and I didn't say whole grain. I said whole foods. Okay, whole foods are, you go in, there's no ingredients to look at. Do you know why? Because there's not a list, because it's just the thing that just grew or whatever, right? As close to source as possible. Some of you guys don't even look at labels, you should look at a label. You look at a label, and if you can't pronounce it, don't buy it. Right? I'm going to talk about label reading tonight. But eliminate all sugars and most fruits, because fruit's healthy, right? Fruit is healthy, but fruit, because we live in the United States, we're more and more toxic, we're more and more sensitive to these carbohydrate issues. Even healthy fruit jacks your blood sugar up enough that it actually causes you to continue to decline into insulin desensitization and into disease and aging and joints breaking down and arthritis and depression and Alzheimer's. This will eliminate cravings and overeating, and this is not a what? Diet. And it is easier than you think, okay? How to become a diabetes label reader? Easy stuff. Look for minimal ingredients. Look for natural ingredients. Words you can pronounce. Again, do try and buy more foods without any labels, fruits and vegetables. Do check every label on every single thing you buy. Do check it. Check it, recheck it, double check it. Check it again just in case you might have got the wrong thing. And put items back if they got stuff that you can't pronounce or you don't want in there. For instance, this. Who here misses bread if you're a patient in the office? Who here misses bread? Oh, man. Right. It's funny, I said muffins. I was eating muffins like, he's holding out on us. So I found this thanks to Luke Rodamel the other day. He's a patient. This is paleo bread. If you're taking notes, I don't sell this. You can't buy this from me. You have to get it online. They don't have it here in Capel. You have to get it online. I'm going to talk to Natural Grocers, see if I can get them to start, or Sprouts. This is from Julian Bakery, Julin, Julian Bakery. Okay, it's paleo bread. Let me read you the ingredients, because that's what we're talking about here. It says purified water. Is that okay? Yes. How about coconut flour? Yes. How about egg whites? Yes, sir. Eggs. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. How about psyllium seed powder? Like psyllium husk? Psyllium seed powder? Very natural, yep. How about raisins? This is cinnamon raisin bread, by the way. How about cinnamon? Lemon juice? Yes. Okay. Potassium bicarbonate. Yes, it's natural. Okay. Stevia? Yes. How about sea salt? Yes. All of this is organic. That's the only thing in there. And the name of it again is this is paleo bread, and it's Julian Bakery. And my favorite is actually not cinnamon raisin. It's actually almond. My favorite is to get cashew butter, smooth cashew butter, slather it on, and then put another one. And it's actually a sandwich, like old times. It's awesome. It's good with a cup of tea, too, just so I'm saying. So there it is. Okay, so read the ingredients. Here's what not to do. Don't worry too much about fat grams, carb grams, and calories. Why? Do you realize a Twinkie has 100 and something calories? Get that? So do 12 almonds. Do you see where I'm going with this? Yes. Which takes longer to ever get out of your system. Mm-hmm. How many people ate 12 almonds before and were like, wait, that's 12 almonds. It's 12 almonds. Don't you say that, Warren. You're like, I did. That's 12 almonds. I can't handle it, 12 almonds. But don't worry about calories. Don't worry about all these things. But carb grams, the only reason I want you to look at it at all is to prove to yourself why you shouldn't be eating some of the things that you're eating. Got it? I mean, there's something at Starbucks that had like 90 calories or 90 grams of carbs at Starbucks. And it's what all the kids were drinking or something, right? It's crazy. All right. Don't buy items with the following ingredients. Monosodium glutamate, hydrolyzed anything, autolyzed anything, artificial sweeteners, sucralose, Splenda, aspartame, NutraSweet equal, whatever. Hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated, refined flour, additives, colorings, preservatives, chemical names, etc. Did you get the idea? Yes. Right? You sent me a great text last week. If you haven't been to Natural Grocers, go over there. Sprouts is good too, but Natural Grocers is awesome. It's like my candy store for food. But it's Schneider sent me something last week. She goes, "Are these chips okay?" Instead of having like palm oil or canola oil and organic corn, there were chips, but they had avocado oil instead, and it was all organic. Now, some of you guys that are not doing core plan, you can't do that yet. You need to do advanced plan, stay away from it. But do you see how there are things out there? You just have to find them in the right place, okay? And don't be fooled by slick marketing claims either, okay? Is sugar hidden? Yes, it's in everything, and there's the slide. Read it yourself. But here's the thing you don't know. In the United States, we created a whole brand of science that didn't exist before now, and the science is all based on how much sugar can I put in a product to where you don't know it's there. You don't just taste like a cola because you're eating like salad dressing or pizza sauce or something like this. And how much sugar can I put in it to actually create the biggest part of your brain to have a euphoric effect. Almost like it's actually the same part that's hit with cocaine or something like this. And it's a pleasure center for drugs so that it makes you really want that food again. And it's a science, and they call it a saturation point, a sugar saturation point. And what they do is they put it in every single thing that you buy. If it's boxed, it's canned, if it's bottled, they put it in there because it makes you what? Want to buy it again. And the products that don't have it in there, guess what? Doesn't taste as good. I don't like that one as much, especially your kids, right? I saw a real funny shirt the other day, and I love him. Ricky is one of my faves. Little Ricky, he's like, Dr. David, Dr. David. He had a shirt the other day that says, I like ketchup on my ketchup, right? And why? Guess how much sugar's in ketchup? It's basically sugar and corn syrup. So it's in everything. What's the advanced plan? Very simple. Eliminate, watch this, sugar, grains, corn, potatoes. Now grains includes breads, okay? You get rid of those things, you're on the right track. And just so you were clear, every single person that's a patient got this in your nutrition manual. Why did I make that a non-negotiable as you entering care in this office? Because it's part of your care. It is an adjustment that you're making, just like the adjustment you get on a table. Got it? Granny Smith apples, those are great. We eat those almost every day with nut butters. Protein, we want to keep it down what? Below that 15 grams per meal. Why? Turns to sugar, exactly. And remove bad fats. What do bad fats do? They just wreck your metabolism, okay? They wreck it. And they also cause autointoxication and cancers. Also, bad fats. Eat one thing of French fries, takes you, it's 102 days to get most of it out of your system. So over 3 months for you to heal just from having one thing of French fries. Got it? Okay, healthy proteins, good fats. I mean, does that make sense? I mean, I don't have to go through this, right? And it's also in your book. You guys are guests, take a picture. Again, it's going to be up online. But again, in fact, I think this is the page out of your book, actually. Typical day, what's it look like? You would never skip breakfast. No, it's okay. Everybody say this with me. Intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting. Guess what? It's a new fad thing. And guess what? It's good for you, and it actually increases your sensitivity to insulin. You can do it. I eat between 6:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. I don't eat past 2:30 p.m. And I talked to somebody at the gym this morning, like, well, I could never do that. I just was so hungry. I'm like, yeah, you think you're hungry, right? You think you would be. But I guarantee you, once you actually convert, your body starts using all of the fat that you've stored. Guess what? You start feeling energetic, like you've had too much caffeine and you haven't had any, right? So you can do that. But here, again, grass-fed whey, plant protein smoothies, eggs, lunch, salad, protein, leftovers. We have leftovers. Dee takes great care of us at the house, but I have salad every day for lunch. Lots of olive oil on it, right? Lots of olive oil. Leftovers or whatever proteins. Again, if you're doing dinner, most people, they do intermittent fasting like this. They skip breakfast, start eating about 11, and they eat until about 7. And then they're done. Got it? And that's a good way to do it. Okay? Artificial sweeteners, stay away from those. Do you realize artificial sweeteners decrease insulin sensitivity? And all the research ever done on these is the more artificial sweeteners you get, the bigger you get. The bigger you get. And what's the one reason people drink Diet Cokes? I can't have that sugar. I don't want to gain weight. Right? I don't want to say this because it almost gives you a green light to go do it, but you are better off drinking a Coke than a Diet Coke. Right? Now, both are poison, but one is more poisonous than the other. Also, visceral fat. It's not just fat, it's the stuff that it's hard to get rid of. Okay? Alcohol and tobacco, again, this has been the biggest craziness I've ever heard of in my life. If you saw my post on Facebook 2 weeks ago, listen, e-cigarettes are literally 10 times worse than regular cigarettes. 10 times worse. How much? 10 times worse. They have propylene, it's liquid propylene glycol and flavors and all this other stuff in it. Watch this. But when you do it, just so we're clear, it makes men women and it makes women men. And so it actually retards your sex hormones and it feminizes men, and it is more deadly than a cigarette ever was. Got it? So here's the thing. E-cigarettes, stay away from them. But alcohol, all the rest, sugar, breakdown, alcohol, sugar. Max Greens, let me stop on this. I used to do Max Greens every day, okay? I used to do it every day, and I got into my supplements, and somehow getting into my supplements, I stopped doing it every day. And I don't even know why. But Kimberly, Raise your hand if you got a spouse, and your spouse is the reason a lot of good things happen to you. Raise your hand. Guys, this is when just raise your hand. There's good. Right there. So, right here. Now, here, let me show you. So this is what I've been doing. Some of you guys have seen me. Now what's crazy is, some of you guys have been in my office for a while and you have never ever tried this. This is absolutely crazy. You've never tried this. This to me actually almost is like a caffeinated drink. It has no caffeine in it. This product has 37 different vegetables in it. Raise your hand if you had 37 different vegetables last week. That's what I thought. You better not raise a hand. Lightning, Lord, just him. But this also has digestive enzymes. I did an example one time, and I took some pudding, and I put this in pudding, and I just stirred them both up. One had it, one didn't, and one of them became just water, and one of them just stayed pudding. And it's because the digestive enzymes help break down your food. So I've been drinking this 30 minutes before a meal, and you will have great bowel movements. Not to talk about gross things, but bowel movements, we can talk about that here. Great bowel movements, your digestion will be easier, and you'll feel better drinking all these micronutrients. Got it? I just mixed water with it, right? Now watch this. Who wants to try it? Anybody? Good. All right, let's do this. Carlos, do me a favor. You do me a favor? Go grab me a bunch of cups. Grab me a bunch of cups up front. All right. Hey, Carlos is new in the office. You guys give Carlos a big hand. We love you, Carlos. Good. I love Carlos. We've already had some fun. All right, so I'm going to have you guys try that, but it's all about micronutrients. And micronutrients are how we actually begin to reverse this. And Carlos, if you didn't know you were going to help me today, but if you want to just line those up, that'd be awesome. Look at this. He didn't know he's a bartender too. Big hand for Carlos. Good. There's only 40,000 people watching. It's fine. All right, so one of the biggest keys into reversing, listen to this. This is your solution. You guys writing it down? Number one solution I want you to leave with is, guess what? Max Greens. I want you to start taking Max Greens. A good time to take it is right after you work out, before you eat. That's a really good time to take it. First thing in the morning as well. Thank you, Carlos. All right, so I'm going to pour this quickly just a little bit. Come on, somebody help me. So right here, I'm going to hand these out. Actually, I tell you what, why don't we do this? Hey, Selena, why don't you help me, babe? So you're like my resident expert all the time and help. So just anybody that wants some, I'm going to pour just a little bit here. And you can try that. It tastes like chocolate because it's got chocolate in it. Good. Uh-oh. There you go. That's all I got. So, okay. Want some more right there? Okay, let's do this. Here, take this. Just take the cold water. Yeah. Put it in there, shake it up, okay, and we'll pour it out. Just grab some cups. All right, I'm going to move forward. Now, here's the thing. What you don't realize is when you drink this, the micronutrients, which would be better for your body, you think? Eating a food and digesting it, or taking a supplement pill? Eating the food, which is why doing this is even better than taking a supplement that's got the stuff in it. Did you get it? Right? This is why this is important, because you start with amylase in the mouth. But let's go through this. One of the things that they actually talk about with diabetes being an issue is autoimmunity. Did you get it? Okay. Now, type 1 diabetes, they call it juvenile diabetes because of autoimmunity. Toxicity, look up anywhere. It says toxicity, lifestyle, genetics. The problem with that is genetics didn't change at all in the last 100 years. Okay. What did change was one thing, and I don't want to get, like, especially my guests or some of you guys that disagree with me, I don't have time to defend myself on this one. But listen, there's one thing in the last 100 years that has been the source of hypersensitivity in immune systems, and without argument, you have to understand, creates hypersensitive immune systems and autoimmunity. And the biggest source of autoimmunity in the last 100 years is vaccination. I'm not going to say we're against it, we're for it, but I'm just saying It is the #1 cause of type 1 diabetes. Now, past that is this. This is leaky gut. What happens is gap cell junctions open, food can get through, you have an immune system response to that, and all of a sudden I have a hyperstimulated immune response, and I start having issues with, guess what? Autoimmunity, and if it attacks my pancreas, because why wouldn't it? I have so much sugar and so much insulin going at me. If insulin's coming out constantly from my pancreas, then guess what? I have a likelihood to be having an immune response to pancreas, yes? So can you see how people develop autoimmunity pancreas? One of the reasons I want you to be doing Max Greens is to help with autoimmunity and to keep you from having it. Make sense? Right? I don't think you're going to eat 37 different vegetables this week. And if you're not, guess what you should do? This is very easy stuff, okay? Now, here's another reason to do it. Max GI. Now, raise your hand if you've ever taken Max GI. This, hands down, most important thing you can take for your gut. Hands down, period. Now, why would I be working on my gut if I've got diabetes or blood sugar irregularities or insulin spikes or I'm tired after eating? Because this is not a blood sugar or insulin issue. It's a cellular functional issue. Does it make sense? What that means is the problem is throughout, and you have to get the body working great, and that starts at the gut. Got it? Okay? Part of it. Okay? The other thing it has in it is magnesium and chromium. Both are absolute power pack players in sugar metabolism. That's why they always talk about chromium as something great for diabetics. So everybody, raise your hand if you heard that before. Chromium, got to take chromium, cinnamon, these things. Chromium, huge. Magnesium, huge. And Max GI, it's got powerful digestive enzymes in it, but it's also got probiotics, enzymes, and it's got essential oils that actually poke through bad bacteria. So you have like bacterial overgrowth where you shouldn't have it, and this helps get rid of all like the candidas and all these things. Got it? And this is a really help importance in it. Now, I want you to remember this from now on. You ever look at a light and then close your eyes, you can still see the light? I want to brand this in the back of your eye so you'll always see it. Now, the red line is what happens to your blood sugar when you eat a carbohydrate-rich meal, okay? It goes way up high, and then insulin kicks in, it goes into the cell, drops down, and this dashed line is fasting blood sugar level. What it means is it doesn't just go back to where it would be if you were fasting. It goes where? Down below it. Everything between here and here is you feeling crappy, you feeling tired, you feeling brain fogged, your joints hurting, you having a hard time to get up in the morning. All of this is below this right here. Does that make sense? When you have a low glycemic load meal, which is advanced plan, high fat, medium proteins, low carb, not to say you're not eating vegetables or fruit, you can have those things, but where you need them and how in moderation. You have a spike, but in spike it just comes up slowly, and then it comes back down, and it goes back down here. This is 4 hours later. Does it make sense? And this is not a fasting group. This is just basically showing where it went. So most people have eaten again right here. Do you see that? So you're never going back. So guess how you feel? You're always energetic. You don't have brain fog. You're doing great. But if you're doing higher carbohydrate meals, you should feel like crap. You should feel tired. You should have a decreased immunity. You should have issues getting up. And every time you get up after the age of 20, you're eating like this, you can't sneak up on anybody because it's... You get out of bed and things pop. You're like, right? You wake people up, your spouse up. That's because the glycemic load effect. Now, how do you get rid of the glycemic load effect? You actually start eating things that don't cause it. One of the things that is the grass-fed whey protein. And I want you to get whey. Why? Because it's one of the most easily digestible forms of protein that you can get on planet Earth. It is made from cows who don't have antibiotics, no chemicals, none of those things, and they're grass-fed. Got it? So what kind of whey is this? It's healthy whey. And there's not like sucralose or aspartame or hydrolyzed whatever or soy protein isolate. Because guess what? Yours at home, if you have one of these, has that in there, okay, if it's not one of these. Optomega. The reason this one is so important for people to regulate your blood sugar is because most of you guys, you're getting some fat. Hopefully you're getting some fats in your diet. Now, some of you guys, if you're guests, you've been taught to get rid of butter, get rid of saturated fats, and guess what? Diabetes goes through the roof. And the reason is the further you get away from your correct ratio of essential 3 fat versus essential 6 fat, should be about 1 to 2. The further you get away from that, the harder it is to maintain your blood sugar. Actually, you'll hold it a little bit and it'll just crash. And you'll hold it a little bit and it'll crash. Because your fat, internally, your stores of fat are like 1 to 40, 1 to 50 instead of 1 to 2. And the way that you fix that is with Optimal Omega. Got it? Because you have to be taking the right type of fat. Raise your hand if, guys that are patients especially, raise your hand if before coming to see me, you took a fatty acid supplement. Raise your hand. Come on. So some of you guys did. Really? Nobody else? So no, not Omega. Any fatty acid supplement. If you took a fatty acid supplement of any kind before you met me, raise your hand. High up. Let me see it. Different companies, not Maximize Living. Yeah. Really? You guys didn't take it before? Well, the reason I say it is because a lot of people will say, hey, listen, his product is great, but I go to Costco and I can get 900 pills for $2. Oh, yeah. and Costco's a partner, so we love you. Oh, yeah. But I'm saying there are some fatty acid supplements out there that are not what you want. Do you hear that? Which is why it's so important. Well, guess what the most expensive thing you could buy is? Something that doesn't work. Got it? All right, so you want stuff to work. This is why this is part of it. This also helps your joints. Who would like to have less joint pain starting this week? This also decreases joint pain. Okay? Exercise. I used to show the DVDs. Raise your hand if when you started care you got a DVD. Now wait a second. You better raise your hand. Some of you guys never unwrapped the cellophane wrapper off the top of it. Yeah, right? Why are you laughing? Some of you guys, I got you. We're actually moving in the digital zone. We still have the DVDs, but we're going to everything digital on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPads, whatever else, so you can have it. But listen, nothing's been as good to showing for actually changing this as diet and what? Exercise. A lot of people want to do the exercise. They don't get there. When a lot of people want to do the diet, they don't get there, right? In fact, more people want to do the diet and they just don't do the exercise because exercise, I don't like to sweat. I don't like to sweat. I get hot. I don't have time, right? I'm just really tired after work. I need to relax, right? No, you don't. You need to go work out, okay? Metabolic effect, it does amazing things, but it's short-term sprint intervals. That means this. You're sprinting, or you're like this morning, I did 4 rounds of 15 back squats, 12 toes to bar pull-ups, 9 burpees, and a 200-meter sprint, and you do it until you're done with 4 rounds and you get the time. It was the most exhausting 13 minutes I've had in about 6 months. I wanted to throw up. I didn't. But guess what? What do you think I looked like when I was done? Yeah, don't take a picture of me and post it. Yeah, I left a sweat angel on the floor, and I was like a fish. You ever take a fish out of water like this? Like this, right? Couldn't talk. And guess what? If I went to the gym or I went with you to go work out, I promise you, some of you guys would be on a treadmill with a book going like this. So good. I love working out. And you never get out of breath. Listen, this is not the workout I'm talking about. I'm talking about going hard till you're out of breath and being sore. Is that okay? Yes, okay. Short bursts, high intensity exercise, more for type 2 diabetics. This is American Heart Association. Short bursts, better. It just does better. Period. Affects A1C levels, body mass index. I mean, 2-fold greater improvement rather than exercising the way you were. This is the good stuff. Okay, you don't have to. I had some people go, well, I like to ride my bike long rides. Well, go do that. Just add in other days. Do some high intensity stuff. Okay. Better results, period. Early morning's the best time. What's the second best time? Anytime. Listen, some of you guys won't even start if you can't do this perfect. Now, I told you I don't want you to patty cake around. I want you to get serious with your life and just go do this thing. But some of you guys, if you can't do it perfect, you're like, well, I'm not going to start until I do perfect. Right? Guess what? Just go do it. If it's at nighttime, go do it at nighttime. It's like so funny. You can't do it at night because or you can't do it in the morning. It's the best time, so you're just not going to do it. Right? I can't get up early, so I'm not going to do it. Guess what? Just go kill it at night when you get home. And listen, if you think you're too tired, that's your brain telling you, and I want you to work out with me. After the makeover, I'm going to do a whole nother round of workouts. Raise your hand if you're with me on Thursday nights. Right? Raise them up high like you liked it. Good. But I'm going to push you, and the reason it's so important to work out with me on Thursday nights is because I'm going to push you harder than you think is healthy. And I'm going to prove to you that you can do more than you think. Who thinks that'd be beneficial, right? I'm going to remember your hands come Thursday nights after the makeover. Right. Now, this is complicated, and I'm not going to go through this thoroughly, but let me just say it like this. The newest research that made my nerd just go crazy was that you can take a tissue cell, and some tissue cell that's affected by a hormone, okay, testosterone or insulin or human growth hormone, whatever, and take the exact same hormone and the exact same amount in the exact same tissue, and depending upon the tone of the nerve, so the conductance velocities and those things, so the tone of the nerve, you can literally change what happens when this hormone touches this tissue. And it's dependent not upon the tissue itself or the amount of hormone, but of the tonicity of the nerve supply into the tissue itself. Did you get that? Which means some of you guys, I had a lady come in one time. She was a new patient. Raise your hand if you remember your very first adjustment with me. Because I can tell you, almost everybody in the room, I remember your first adjustment. I go in the room. She's got an insulin pump. She's here for neck pain and head migraines. Okay? I adjust her first day. Went very well. I get a call from her husband, who I'd not met yet, who now doesn't like me. And find out that she got home and she wasn't feeling very well. She got up and she passed out. Bang. Checked her blood sugar and it had crashed down to nothing. Like dangerous, like taking her to the hospital. And they hospitalized her. Call and check her. How you doing? Yeah, well, it turns out they monitored me for several days. They had to decrease my insulin pump by half. So they had to cut it in half. I said, man, praise God, that's awesome. One adjustment, hasn't changed her diet. Comes in again. We get into room 2. I'll never forget it. She looks at me like, she goes, you're going to adjust me, right? I go, I'm going to adjust you. You got subluxation. I'm going to save your life. And so I said, okay. So I adjusted her again. As I'm going to call you later, though, see how you're doing. I call her later. It was about 6:37. She almost passed out again, but she decreased her insulin pump herself, and she had to cut it in half again. In 2 adjustments, she cut her insulin need by 3/4. Did you get that? The reason for that is because the tissue cell is not just the tissue cell. The hormone's not just the hormone. It's how everything is balanced and works together. Does it make sense? Right? That's Don Columbi's doctor. It's amazing. How does that work? Well, this is how it works. This is the part. I tell you guys, I will continue telling you the rest of your life. Everybody here is a lifetime patient, even the guests, you don't know it yet. But it's, listen, when you go home at night or you wake up in the morning, every single person, you do not leave your house without brushing your teeth. Even if they're not your teeth, you're brushing your teeth. You're not going to leave it with just this funk. You don't do that. Well, guess what? It is the same thing with your spine. If you keep coming to me and you keep having issues, I had a guy today, he said, man, my back really hurts today. And yet he's 60 pounds overweight. He's still on all these meds. He won't take my advice. And the first thing I want to say is, what did you eat this morning? Right? And then the next thing in my mind is, but wait, the last time we had this discussion, you have never started your home rehab to clear your nerve supply. And so he wants to put all of the responsibility on his health on who? Just like he does his medical doctor. Hey, that prescription's not working, right? But guess who's responsible for your health? Myself. You are. And guess what? At the end of the day, it may not feel like a blessing. That's the greatest blessing I could ever give you, because if it's your responsibility and you can do something about it, hallelujah, I can be victorious on it, but it means that I got to do something about it myself. And so nervous system is a priority number 1. Don't change your diet and don't go work out hard if you're not doing something for your nerve supply, because I can tell you this, you'll probably hurt yourself or go down. And there's lots of people that die on their feet working out, and there's lots of people that die on treadmills. There's lots of people that eat great and pass out and don't pass away. Why? It's because people need a nerve supply that's 100%. It's not a theory. It's not a chiropractic philosophy. It is absolute science and anatomy and physiology. So guess what the most important part of tonight is for you to take home, other than you making sure you're equipped with the right things to get your blood sugar in order? It's to make sure you're doing what? Taking care of this nerve supply. Yeah, it's an adjustment. Yeah, some of you guys have big angles. I adjusted somebody the other day that was having crazy, weird, stuff with their digestive tract. Boom, just open this up, and I don't want to scare my guests here like I'm yanking someone's head off or something, but I open up their nerve supply, and guess what? It's a miracle, all went away. Did I go to school for 8 years to figure out exactly how to heal the human digestive tract? Not necessarily, but when I open up that nerve supply, I don't have to. God made that body that knows exactly what to do to heal things. You just have to get everything out of the way between here and health. Got it? Amen. So, this is what you do. This is a great example of this. This is a 61-year-old male, insulin dependent, 2 shots in his stomach a day, glyburide, metformin, and something else. He's also on a cholesterol drug which causes diabetes. Statin drugs, I posted that today. But this guy comes in, do you see these big angles, right? Yes. Starts getting adjusted. Now, was he getting adjusted for pain? No, he's getting adjusted to clear his nerve supply for health. In fact, he actually had more pain after he started. I'd ask you to raise your hands, but we have guests in the room. I don't want to scare them. The difference between the 5 chiropractors he went to and me is I took a re-x-ray and I adjusted him not so he felt better, but so his spine was better. Guess what happened to his insulin sensitivity? Guess what happened to his insulin dependence? He's off of all of his drugs, no diabetes, A1Cs are perfect, fasting glucose is great, but he did everything 100% because he got serious with his life and he made the changes necessary. Does that make sense? That is a huge change. First step to end diabetes is this. If you're a guest, we're going to include every single thing your first visit. Now, you guys that have been in the office for a while, I love you too, but this is just stuff we started including. Complete history consultation exam, spinal electromyography, bilateral weight scales, digital posture evaluation, x-rays if necessary, and a Tanita body comp. And this is $200 if you go get it at your doctor's office today. We're going to include all of those things so that we get a baseline and actually find the cause. Raise your hand if there's a hallelujah, thank you Jesus for somebody looking for the cause finally. Right? Yes. Yeah, and so that's what we're going to do. So you guys that are guests, will make sure you do that. And what's the one thing people always ask me, well, how much is it going to cost? Does my insurance cover it? We'll cover those things. I'm not in network sometimes. I want to be up in front and honest. But listen, guys, everybody here that's a patient, raise your hand if you're a patient. You figured it out too. Got it? So guess, I'm sure it'll be fine. 30 days. This is what I want you to do. Determine your big why. This is what you're going to get. This is the next 30 days. I want you to be thinking about why it is you need to be healthy. Because guess what? At the end of the day, if you want to lose weight, you'll cheat. Right? Think about that. The grandbabies coming from that new marriage coming up. Right? Would you like to be around for them to get married? Right? This is a big why. Change the software you're running on. This is this. Right? Stop watching the news. Right? Make over your meals. Simplify. Yes. Just simplify. Do something like a salad and a piece of meat. Right? Easy stuff. Make exercise a what? Priority. Say priority. Priority. And here's one more thing. If you kill a bunch of insects, they call it insecticide. If you kill a bunch of plants, they call it a herbicide. If you kill yourself, they call it suicide. If you kill somebody else, they call it a homicide. C-I-D-E means to kill. And here's the thing. Every single person here needs to kill your other options. And guess what that means? Decide. So you need to decide. You need to decide today that you're going to do this. Don't go, I think this might be really good for me. No. Because guess what? When someone brings out cheesecake on Saturday, so guess what? Just make a decision, okay, today, okay? Avoid toxic exposures. Again, alcohol, tobacco, these things. But this is also a lot of things that we're going to talk about at the makeover. So cleaners, cooking stuff. Take care of your nervous system. So the next 30 days, can you decide to do at least in part or all of this for 30 days? Can you do that? Got it. Okay, and guess what? When you buy this stuff tonight in your packet, guess how long it lasts? 30 days. That's not a coincidence. Make sense? Okay. Even if you don't have diabetes, I had somebody this morning go, I'm not coming to that talk. It's for diabetics. I'm not diabetic. Guess what you should never, ever miss in this office? Power Workshop. It's exactly right. One more thing. What's the thing with diabetics? The peripheral extremities have issues, right? They have amputations. They have stuff that won't heal. Some of you guys think it's aging that have created some things with problems healing. It's not aging. It's actually decreased oxygenation to things. I talked to somebody today, and they were talking about how their husband had a problem with something healing on his foot. And I said, listen, if he goes to wound care, it's going to be $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to go to wound care. If you come in here, do you think it's going to be $5,000? No, not at least. And one thing that you guys may want to put in your mind is we have a hyperbaric unit on site here. We had several people post-surgery. Actually, Warren's a great example of that. And what have you seen? Like post-surgical, was it almost miraculous what you saw?
Oh yeah, not only that, I've had a left leg that's had blood clots in it 17 years ago. I was on a blood thinner, and I've noticed that over the times that the swelling on my left leg and groin is down almost, and sometimes where it looks like the other leg.
It looks like the other leg. And so swelling issues in the legs, things that won't heal. The hyperbaric unit is a spectacular thing. It works for so many things. I'm going to stay around for some questions. Afterwards, you guys are ready to take off. Go get your products. They should have everything they need. If they don't have enough, they should though. If they don't have enough, they'll have rain checks so you get today's price, and they'll have it in within the next several days. And so if you would just bow your heads, let's pray it up. So Father, we love you and praise you. We thank you for today. I thank you for the opportunity that we come together. I ask God that you bless tonight the words that were spoken, that it truly changes the world. That this thing about diabetes, you didn't create diabetes. You didn't try and bless us with diabetes or give it to us so that we had some kind of change. Diabetes is something that we made because we went away from the path of the way that we should be living. And I ask God that you show us and you give us faith to move out through the fears that we might have from medical thinking, through the fears that we might have from past experiences, and you bring us into wide open pastures of blessings of health and longevity and being blessings to those people around us and our families. So I ask God a blessing on tonight, that everybody gets what they need to be equipped, that we have an amazing 30 days, that we hit this makeover all together with all of our families and all of our friends, and Father, that you continue to change this to make this the healthiest part of the entire world right here in North Texas. So we love and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.